Marcus Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead as he floated through the cramped maintenance shaft of his salvage vessel. The lucky strike. 3 months of searching the outer rim had yielded nothing but scrap metal and broken dreams. His fuel reserves were running dangerously low, and his food synthesizer had started making that grinding noise that meant expensive repairs ahead. The proximity alarm chimed, pulling him from his brooding thoughts. Marcus pushed himself toward the cockpit, his magnetic boots clanking against the metal flooring. Through the reinforced viewport he saw it, a massive derelict ship drifting in the shadow of a dying red giant star. The vessel was unlike anything in the standard ship databases. Its hull was a deep obsidian black with veins of what looked like crystalline material, running across its surface in intricate patterns. "Computer, run a deep scan on that vessel," Marcus commanded, settling into his pilot seat. Scanning complete. No life signs detected. Hull composition unknown. Energy readings minimal but present. Estimated age, approximately 10,000 years. Warning, no match found in any known ship registries. 10,000 years. Marcus whistled low. That was before humanity had even left Earth's solar system. Before the Great Expansion. Before they had encountered any of the other spacefaring races. This could be the archaeological find of the century, or at the very least, it might contain technology worth enough to keep him in business for years. He maneuvered the lucky strike closer, noting how the derelict's surface seemed to shimmer and shift in the red giant's dying light. The crystalline veins pulsed with a faint inner glow, like a heartbeat barely clinging to life. As he approached what appeared to be a docking port, Marcus felt an odd sensation, almost like being watched. The docking procedure went smoothly, though his ship's systems registered several unusual energy fluctuations during the connection process. Marcus suited up in his EVA gear, checking his oxygen levels twice. Unknown alien technology from an ancient civilization wasn't something to take lightly, even if it appeared completely dead. The airlock cycled, and Marcus stepped into the alien vessel. Emergency lighting flickered on automatically, casting eerie shadows down a corridor that seemed to stretch impossibly far into the ship's depths. The walls were smooth, organic-looking, with those same crystalline veins running through them like a nervous system. The air was thin but breathable, which was odd for a ship that had been dead for millennia. Marcus activated his scanner and began mapping the vessel's layout. The readings were confusing. The ship appeared to be much larger inside than its external dimensions suggested. Rooms branched off in all directions, some following conventional geometry, others seeming to twist in ways that made his head hurt to contemplate. He decided to head toward what his scanner indicated was the largest chamber in the ship's center. As he walked, Marcus noticed that the crystalline veins were becoming brighter, responding to his presence like some kind of neural network coming online. His boots made no sound on the strange, spongy flooring, and the silence was beginning to unnerve him. The corridor opened into a vast chamber that defied explanation. The ceiling arched high overhead, disappearing into darkness while the walls curved away in smooth spirals. At the center of the room stood what could only be described as a throne, carved from a single piece of that same crystalline material. But it wasn't empty. Something massive was coiled around the throne, something that Marcus's brain struggled to process. It looked like a dragon from ancient Earth mythology, but composed entirely of what appeared to be condensed starlight. Its scales shifted and flowed like liquid energy, and its enormous head rested against one wing in what looked like eternal sleep. The creature had to be at least 100 meters long, its body crackling with dormant power. Marcus approached cautiously, his scanner going crazy with energy readings. The creature didn't move, didn't even seem to breathe. But as he got closer, those crystalline veins in the walls began pulsing faster, brighter, as if the entire ship was some kind of life support system for this incredible being. He reached out to touch one of the creature's scales, then stopped himself. Every instinct told him this was dangerous, that he should leave immediately and report his find to the authorities. But the salvager in him, the part that had spent years crawling through dead ships looking for anything of value, was fascinated. This was beyond value. This was history, mystery, and wonder all wrapped into one impossible package. His hand hovered inches from the creature's flank when his comm system crackled to life. Static filled the channel, then cleared to reveal a voice speaking in a language he didn't recognize. The words were musical, flowing like water over stones, but there was an urgency to them that transcended language barriers. Marcus looked around the chamber, trying to locate the source of the transmission. The voice continued, growing more insistent, and gradually Marcus realized it wasn't coming from his comm system at all. It was coming from the ship itself, from those pulsing crystalline veins that now blazed with brilliant light. Then the impossible happened. The dragon's massive eye opened, revealing a swirling galaxy of stars contained within. The pupil focused on Marcus with an intelligence so ancient and vast that he felt like an ant being examined by a philosopher. The voice in his head, for that's where it was now, speaking directly into his consciousness, became clearer. Finally, the voice whispered, carrying with it the weight of eons. "A starfarer has come. I have slept so long waiting for one brave enough to approach, one whose hands know the art of repair." Marcus stumbled backward, his heart hammering against his ribs. The dragon's head lifted from its wing, and the entire chamber began to hum with barely contained energy. Lights that had been dormant for 10,000 years flickered to life throughout the vast space. "You are afraid," the dragon observed, its mental voice gentle despite its overwhelming presence. "This is wise. But you are also curious. This is better. I am Stellarian, last of the star dragons, guardian of dead worlds and keeper of forgotten songs. My ship, my body's cradle, has suffered damage that my own power cannot heal. I sense in you the skills of a maker, a mender. Will you help an old dragon wake properly from his long sleep?" Marcus stared into those galaxy eyes, knowing that his answer would change everything. The simple salvage run had become something far more significant. He was face to face with a being of legend, a creature that existed somewhere between mythology and science, and it was asking for his help. Around them, the ship continued to wake up, systems coming online after 10 millennia of dormancy, waiting for his decision. Marcus took a deep breath, trying to process what was happening. A dragon made of starlight was asking for his help, and somehow that felt more real than anything he'd experienced in his 30 years of life. He looked around at the awakening ship, watching lights flicker and dance along the crystalline pathways. "I'm just a salvager," Marcus said aloud, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. "I fix broken engines and patch hull breaches. I don't know anything about dragons or ancient technology." Stellarian's massive head tilted, and Marcus felt amusement ripple through the mental connection. "You understand more than you know, young starfarer. Your people, humans you call them, they have a gift that even we dragons came to respect. The ability to see potential in the broken, to find solutions where others see only problems. This is why I waited for one of your kind." The dragon shifted, and Marcus heard the sound of crystal chiming against crystal as Stellarian's coils adjusted around the throne. The movement sent waves of energy through the ship's systems, and Marcus's scanner began beeping frantically as power levels spiked throughout the vessel. "Show me what's wrong," Marcus said, surprised by his own words. The logical part of his brain was screaming at him to run, but his curiosity had always been stronger than his fear. Stellarian's eyes brightened, and suddenly Marcus felt knowledge flooding his mind. Not overwhelming, but gentle, like remembering something he'd always known. Images flashed before him. The ship as it had been 10,000 years ago, sleek and powerful, cutting through space like a living thing. Then came the battle, if it could be called a battle when it was really a massacre. The Void Hunters had come from between the stars, creatures of pure entropy that devoured civilizations like locusts devoured crops. They had swept through the galaxy, turning living worlds into dead rocks, silencing the songs of entire species. The star dragons had been the last line of defense, beings of such power that they could ignite dead stars and shepherd the growth of new life. But even dragons could be overwhelmed by infinite hunger. One by one they had fallen, their life force consumed by the Void Hunters. Stellarian had been among the last, wounded and desperate, when he had put himself into stasis aboard this ship, hoping that someone would eventually find him and wake him when the galaxy was ready to face the darkness again. "The Void Hunters," Marcus whispered, understanding flooding through him. "They're coming back, aren't they?" "They never truly left," Stellarian replied, his mental voice tinged with ancient sadness. "They sleep between the galaxies, waiting for the songs of life to grow strong enough to attract their attention. Your people's expansion into the stars, the growth of the galactic community, it has begun to wake them. The first scouts have already returned to this galaxy's edge. Marcus felt cold fear settle in his stomach. How long do we have? Perhaps a few of your years, perhaps less. But first, I must be fully awakened. My ship's bioneural networks have degraded over the millennia. The connections that allow me to interface with the vessel systems are damaged. Without them, I am merely a sleeping dragon, powerful but limited. With them restored, I can teach your people how to defend themselves. Stellarian gestured with his great head toward one of the chamber's walls, where a section of the crystalline network was dark, the veins cracked and dulled. The damage is there in the primary neural junction. Your technology and mine are not so different. Both rely on the flow of energy through conductive pathways. What I need is someone with the skill to bridge the gap between organic crystal and quantum circuitry. Marcus approached the damaged section, pulling out his diagnostic tools. As he got closer, he could see that the crystal matrix was incredibly complex, far beyond anything humanity had developed, but the basic principles were familiar. It was like looking at the most advanced computer ever built and recognizing the fundamental logic gates beneath all the exotic technology. I can see the problem, Marcus said, running his scanner over the damaged area. The crystal matrix has developed microfractures that are preventing proper signal flow. But I don't have anything that could repair something like this. The tolerances are impossibly precise. Use this, Stellarian said, and Marcus felt something small and warm appear in his hand. Looking down, he found a tool unlike anything he'd ever seen, part scanner, part welder, part something else entirely. It felt alive in his grip, responding to his thoughts as much as his movements. A dragon tool, Stellarian explained, grown rather than built, designed to work with living systems. It will help you understand what needs to be done. As soon as Marcus activated the tool, his perception shifted. He could see the damage not just as broken crystal, but as a wound in a living system. The dragon tool guided his hands, showing him how to carefully remove the fractured segments and replace them with new growth, coaxing the crystal to heal itself rather than simply patching the damage. The work was delicate, requiring a level of precision that would have been impossible with his normal tools. But the dragon tool seemed to anticipate his needs, adjusting its functions to match his intentions. Hours passed as Marcus worked, losing himself in the intricate process of biological engineering. As the last connection was restored, the chamber exploded with light. The crystalline veins throughout the ship blazed with energy, and Marcus felt power flowing through the vessel like blood through arteries. Stellarian's eyes flared brilliant white, and the dragon's coils unwound from the throne as the full connection was re-established. Magnificent, Stellarian breathed, and Marcus felt the dragon's joy like warm sunlight. I can feel the ship again, feel the stars calling. Young Marcus, you have done more than repair damaged circuitry. You have given me back my wings. The ship around them continued to transform. Systems that had been dormant for millennia came online with smooth efficiency. The walls themselves seemed to shift and flow, optimizing themselves for better performance. Through his connection to the ship, Marcus could feel the vessel's excitement as it remembered what it was designed to do. But this is only the beginning, Stellarian continued, his mental voice now carrying an undertone of power that made Marcus's bones vibrate. Now that I'm whole again, I can show your people what is coming and help them prepare. The Void Hunters are creatures of entropy, but they can be defeated if one knows their weaknesses and has the will to fight. Marcus felt a chill as he realized what the dragon was implying. You want me to help you contact humanity, to warn them? More than that, Stellarian replied, rising to his full height, his starlight scales casting rainbow patterns on the chamber walls. I want you to help me teach them. The galaxy faces its greatest threat in 50 million years, and humanity may be the key to survival, but only if they learn to fight like dragons. Around them, the awakened ship began to move, turning toward distant stars where humanity waited, unaware that their entire existence was about to change forever. The journey to human space took 3 days, but those were 3 days that changed Marcus forever. Stellarian shared more than just knowledge through their mental connection. He shared experience. Marcus felt what it was like to soar between stars under his own power, to feel the songs that planets sang when they were truly alive, to remember the time when the galaxy was young and full of wonders that no longer existed. But he also felt the weight of loss, the grief of watching entire civilizations consumed by hungry darkness, the desperate fury of the last battle against an enemy that couldn't be reasoned with or defeated through conventional means. By the time they reached the outer beacons of human territory, Marcus understood why Stellarian had waited 10,000 years for the right person to wake him. Your people have grown much since I last observed them, Stellarian noted as they passed a busy shipping lane. The dragon ship's advanced sensors could penetrate the hulls of passing vessels, analyzing their technology and crew compositions. They have learned to work with other species to build alliances. This is good. The Void Hunters are strongest against those who fight alone. Marcus watched the normal traffic of interstellar commerce flowing around them. Cargo haulers, passenger liners, mining vessels, all going about their business in blissful ignorance of the threat building at the galaxy's edge. How do we convince them? The government, the military, the colonies? They'll think we're either crazy or lying. We don't convince them with words, Stellarian replied, his mental voice carrying gentle amusement. We show them! The dragon ship suddenly accelerated, moving faster than any human vessel Marcus had ever seen. They shot past a patrol of United Earth Defense Force cruisers, and Marcus watched the chaos that erupted in their wake as the warships tried to track something moving at impossible speeds. Communication channels filled with confused chatter as sensor operators struggled to make sense of readings that defied known physics. Stellarian, they'll think we're attacking, Marcus protested. No, the dragon said calmly. They'll think we're demonstrating. Watch. The dragon ship came to a complete stop directly in front of the UEDF flagship, the heavy cruiser Intrepid. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Intrepid's communication array lit up with incoming signals as every ship in the patrol group tried to figure out what they were looking at. Unidentified vessel, you have violated restricted space and performed maneuvers beyond our current understanding of physics, came the tight voice of the Intrepid's captain. Identify yourself immediately or we will consider you hostile. Marcus found himself speaking before he fully realized it, the dragon tool from earlier having somehow integrated with his ship's communication system. UEDF Intrepid, this is Marcus Chen aboard the vessel Stellarian's Dream. I'm a human citizen, registration number 7749 Delta Sol, and I'm carrying information about a threat to all galactic civilization. I request an immediate audience with your highest-ranking command authority. There was a long pause. Then, Mr. Chen, our records show you as a registered salvage operator. Your last known position was in the Outer Rim territories. How did you acquire a vessel capable of the maneuvers we just observed? That's part of what I need to explain, Marcus replied. Captain, I know this sounds impossible, but I've made contact with a being called a Star Dragon. He's been asleep for 10,000 years, waiting for someone to wake him so he could warn us about something called the Void Hunters. If I'm right, everything we've built out here is about to be threatened by an enemy that's already destroyed entire galactic civilizations. Another pause. Longer this time. Marcus could imagine the frantic consultations taking place aboard the Intrepid's bridge. Finally, Mr. Chen, you will prepare to be boarded. Do not attempt to flee, or we will be forced to consider you hostile. They are afraid, Stellarian observed. This is understandable, but fear can lead to wisdom, if properly channeled. A shuttle launched from the Intrepid, and Marcus felt his heart rate increase as he prepared to face the first humans who would learn the truth about what was coming. Stellarian seemed to sense his nervousness. Be at peace, young friend. You are not alone in this. I will help you show them what they need to see. The dragon ship's docking bay opened to receive the shuttle, its organic walls flowing aside like liquid metal. Marcus made his way to the airlock, trying to figure out how to explain everything that had happened to him over the past few days. The boarding party consisted of 6 people. 4 Marines in full combat gear, a science officer with enough scanning equipment to stock a research station, and a woman in commander's stripes whose sharp eyes took in every detail of the dragon ship's interior. I'm Commander Sarah Reeves, she said without preamble. Mr. Chen, I'm going to be very direct with you. Every government in human space has been watching for signs of new alien contact since the Proxima incident 5 years ago. The vessel you're aboard represents technology levels that are centuries beyond anything we've seen. I need to know if you're speaking freely or if you're being coerced. Marcus appreciated her directness. I'm speaking freely, Commander. And you're right about the technology level. What I'm aboard isn't just a ship. It's alive in ways that our science doesn't have words for yet. The being I've been in contact with calls himself Stellarian, and he's offered to share knowledge that could save not just humanity, but every intelligent species in the galaxy. The science officer, a thin man with intense eyes, had been running scans throughout the conversation. Commander, the readings are extraordinary. The ship's hull appears to be some kind of living metal crystal composite. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. And there's something else. I'm detecting what appears to be a massive life form at the center of the vessel. That would be Stellarian, Marcus said. He's waiting to meet you if you're willing. Commander Reeves considered this for a long moment. Mr. Chen, assuming you're telling the truth, this represents first contact with a species that possesses technology far beyond our own. Protocol demands that I contact higher authority before proceeding. Commander, Marcus said urgently. With respect, we may not have time for full protocol. Stellarian has shown me what's coming, and it's worse than any war humanity has ever faced. The Void Hunters aren't just another aggressive species. They're something that exists to consume life itself. They've done it before, and they're preparing to do it again. Before Commander Reeves could respond, the air around them shimmered, and suddenly they weren't standing in a metal corridor anymore. They were in Stellarian's chamber, face to face with the magnificent dragon himself. The Marines raised their weapons instinctively, but their targeting systems couldn't get a lock on something made of living starlight. Peace, warriors, Stellarian said, his voice reaching all of them directly. I mean no harm. I transport you here so that words need not fail where truth must succeed. Commander Reeves stared up at the dragon, her military composure cracking slightly. You're incredible, but if you're so powerful, why do you need our help? Stellarian's eyes swirled with ancient sadness. Because power alone has never been enough. The Void Hunters are not defeated through strength, but through sacrifice, unity, and the willingness to become more than what you were before the threat arrived. Your species has qualities that even we dragons lacked. Adaptability, creativity, and most importantly, the refusal to surrender hope even when facing impossible odds. The science officer was scanning frantically, his instruments barely able to process what they were detecting. Commander, the energy readings from this being are off the charts. If he wanted to harm us, our weapons wouldn't even slow him down. Then it's fortunate that I wish to preserve your species, not destroy it, Stellarian said gently. Commander Reeves, I offer you knowledge that could transform your people's understanding of the universe. But in return, I ask that you help me prepare humanity for a war that will determine whether intelligence survives in this galaxy, or whether all worlds become silent, stones drifting in empty space, Commander. Reeves looked around at her team, seeing her own amazement reflected in their faces. What kind of preparation are you talking about? The kind that will require courage beyond anything your species has yet shown, Stellarian replied. Are you ready to learn what it truly means to fight like dragons? 3 weeks later, Marcus found himself standing in the most secure briefing room on Luna Base, watching humanity's top military and scientific minds struggle to process what Stellarian had shown them. The dragon had shared carefully selected memories of the ancient war, allowing them to see the Void Hunters as they truly were, creatures of pure entropy that could drain the life from entire solar systems. Admiral Zhang, head of the United Earth Defense Force, was reviewing tactical reports with a grim expression. The preliminary deep space scans have confirmed it, she announced to the assembled group. We're detecting energy signatures consistent with what this Stellarian has described as Void Hunter scout vessels. 3 different locations along the galactic rim, all moving toward inhabited systems. Dr. Elizabeth Morris, the chief xenobiologist, looked up from her tablet. The biological samples that Stellarian provided are unlike anything we've encountered. These creatures exist partially outside normal space-time, which explains how they can consume energy so efficiently. Our conventional weapons would be almost useless against them. Marcus watched Commander Reeves, who had become his unofficial liaison with the human command structure. She'd adapted quickly to the situation, treating Stellarian with the respect due to both an ally and a being of immense power. What about the defensive measures Stellarian has proposed? She asked. That's where things get complicated, Admiral Zhang replied. The technologies he's describing would require fundamental changes to our understanding of physics. Ships that think for themselves, weapons powered by stellar cores, defensive systems that can manipulate space-time itself. We're talking about advances that should take centuries to develop. Unless we accept his offer to accelerate our development, Dr. Morris added quietly. The mental enhancement protocols he's described could allow our scientists and engineers to process information at rates comparable to dragon-level intelligence. But the risks? Marcus had experienced those enhancements firsthand. Stellarian had gradually expanded his mental capacity over their journey together, allowing him to understand concepts that would normally require years of study. The feeling was intoxicating, like having his mind suddenly become 10 times clearer and faster, but he could understand why the scientists were nervous about it. The volunteers from the test program are adapting well, Commander Reeves reported. 12 of our best engineers and physicists underwent the initial enhancement procedures yesterday. They're already making connections that our research teams missed entirely. Admiral Zhang looked troubled. I understand the necessity, but we're talking about fundamentally altering human consciousness. Are we sure we're still going to be human when this is over? With respect, Admiral, Marcus interjected, I don't think being human is about having limitations. It's about how we respond when those limitations are challenged. Stellarian isn't trying to change what makes us human. He's trying to help us become the best version of what we already are. The door to the briefing room opened, and one of the enhanced volunteers entered. Dr. James Park had been a brilliant quantum physicist before the enhancement, but now he moved with a different kind of awareness, his eyes bright with an intelligence that seemed to process multiple layers of reality simultaneously. The first prototype is ready, he announced without preamble. We've successfully integrated Dragon biotechnology with human engineering principles. The test ship is smaller than what we'll need for actual combat, but it demonstrates that the hybrid approach works. Admiral Zhang leaned forward. Show us. Dr. Park activated a holographic display that filled the center of the room. The design that appeared was like nothing in any human fleet. Organic curves blended with crystalline structures, weapon systems that seemed to grow from the hull rather than being attached to it, and a central core that pulsed with inner light. We call it the Dragon-class frigate, Dr. Park explained. The hull is grown rather than built, using modified dragon crystal that can repair itself and adapt to different combat conditions. The weapons draw power directly from a controlled stellar fragment, essentially a miniature star held in a containment field that the dragon crystals help stabilize, Commander. Reeves studied the display with professional interest. What about crew requirements? That's the most interesting part, Dr. Park replied. The ship forms a symbiotic relationship with its crew. Enhanced humans can interface directly with the vessel's systems, making the entire ship respond like an extension of their own bodies. Initial simulations suggest that a single enhanced human could operate a frigate-class vessel with efficiency that would normally require a crew of 50. Admiral Zhang was quiet for a long moment. How many ships can we build? With the resources of the entire human industrial complex? Perhaps 20 frigate-class vessels in the next 6 months, assuming we can enhance enough people to crew them. But that's not going to be enough. Not against what Stellarian has shown us is coming. Marcus felt a familiar presence in his mind as Stellarian reached out through their connection. The dragon had been monitoring the meeting from his ship, which now hung in lunar orbit like a small moon made of starlight and crystal. Tell them about the allies. Stellarian's voice whispered in Marcus's mind. There's something else, Marcus announced to the room. Stellarian has been in contact with other species. The Vegan Collective, the Andromedans, even some groups we've never encountered before. The Void Hunters are a threat to all intelligent life, not just humanity. We're going to have allies in this fight. Dr. Morris looked up with interest. How many allies? Enough to matter, Marcus replied, relaying Stellarian's words. But they're all facing the same problem we are. Their technology isn't sufficient to fight creatures that exist partially outside normal space. What makes humans special is our adaptability. Other species have spent millions of years perfecting their technology along specific paths. We're young enough to change, to adapt, to become something new. Admiral Zhang stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at Earth hanging in space below them. So the plan is to enhance human capabilities, build ships that are part dragon, and hope that our adaptability gives us an edge that older, more advanced civilizations lack. That's part of it, Marcus confirmed. But there's more. Stellarian believes that the key to defeating the Void Hunters isn't just in technology, it's in understanding what they really are and why they exist. He thinks humans might be uniquely positioned to figure out something that every other species has missed. What do you mean? Commander Reeves asked. Marcus closed his eyes, accessing memories that Stellarian had shared with him. The Void Hunters aren't just destroyers. They're recyclers, in a sense. They consume civilizations that have reached a certain level of development, but they leave primitives alone. Every species that's faced them has tried to fight them with the same approach: more power, better weapons, stronger defenses. But what if that's exactly the wrong approach? What if the solution isn't to fight harder, but to fight smarter? Dr. Park's enhanced mind was already racing ahead. You're talking about asymmetric warfare. Use the fact that they're adapted to fight advanced civilizations as a weakness. Fight them with techniques they're not prepared for. Exactly, Marcus said. And that's where human creativity and adaptability become crucial. We're not trying to become a more advanced version of what already exists. We're trying to become something entirely new, something the Void Hunters have never faced before. Admiral Zhang turned back to the group. How long do we have? Marcus felt Stellarian's concern through their connection. Months, not years. The scout ships are accelerating toward inhabited systems. When they report back that the galaxy has reached sufficient development to be worth harvesting, the main fleet will follow. Then we'd better get started, Admiral Zhang said grimly. Commander Reeves, I want you to coordinate with this Stellarian directly. Dr. Park, begin scaling up the ship construction program immediately. Dr. Morris, start working on enhancement protocols for larger groups. As the meeting broke up and people began filing out to begin the most desperate preparation in human history, Marcus remained behind, feeling the weight of what was coming. Through his connection with Stellarian, he could sense the dragon's own mixture of hope and fear. The Star Dragon had waited 10,000 years for this moment, gambling everything on the belief that humanity might succeed where older civilizations had failed. Now they would find out if that gamble would pay off, or if the galaxy would fall silent once again. 6 months after first contact with Stellarian, Marcus stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus, humanity's first full-scale Dragon-class battlecruiser. The ship hummed around him with a life of its own, its biocrystal hull responding to his thoughts almost before he finished forming them. Through the enhancement protocol, his consciousness had expanded to encompass not just his own body, but the entire vessel and its crew of 20 other enhanced humans. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, reported Lieutenant Chen. No relation, despite the shared surname. Her enhanced senses could detect energy signatures across multiple dimensions, a ability that would have seemed like magic just months earlier. Definitely Void Hunter configuration. 3 scout ships approaching the Kepler 442 system. Marcus felt the ship's eagerness to engage, its weapon systems charging automatically in response to his emotional state. The Prometheus was armed with dragonfire cannons that could punch holes through space-time itself, and shield generators that drew power from controlled quantum fluctuations. But more importantly, it could think, adapt, and learn from each engagement. Signal the fleet, Marcus commanded. His words carried instantly to the 19 other Dragon-class vessels spread throughout this sector of space. All ships prepare for engagement pattern Delta. Remember, these are scouts. Our goal is information gathering, not destruction. The response came back immediately from Captain Rodriguez aboard the Defiance. Prometheus, we're detecting massive energy buildup from the lead scout. They know we're here. Through his enhanced perception, Marcus could see the battle developing in his mind like a 3-dimensional chess game. The Void Hunter scouts were unlike any enemy humanity had faced before. Their ships seemed to exist partially outside normal space, phasing in and out of reality as they moved. Conventional sensors could barely track them, and conventional weapons simply passed through empty space where the ships had been moments before. But the Dragon-class vessels were far from conventional. Stellarian, are you monitoring? Marcus asked, knowing the Star Dragon was following the engagement from his position near Earth. I am with you, came the immediate response through their mental link. Remember, these scouts are testing your capabilities as much as you are testing theirs. Show them something they don't expect, Marcus smiled grimly. Over the past months, human tactical doctrine had evolved in ways that surprised even their dragon mentor. Instead of trying to match the Void Hunters' technology directly, they had developed approaches that were uniquely human, unpredictable, adaptive, and based on principles that older civilizations had never considered. All ships, initiate swarm protocol, Marcus ordered. The response was immediate and beautiful to watch through enhanced senses. The 20 Dragon-class vessels suddenly separated into their component parts, Each ship could break apart into dozens of smaller craft, each one capable of independent operation while maintaining connection to the whole. What had been a fleet of 20 large ships became a cloud of 300 smaller vessels, each one following slightly different tactical patterns. The Void Hunter scouts reacted exactly as predicted, their weapon systems trying to target the largest energy signatures. But there weren't any large signatures anymore, just a swarm of small, fast-moving targets that defied their sensors' ability to track effectively. Phase 2, Marcus commanded, and the swarm began to dance. Human pilots, their reflexes enhanced beyond normal biological limits, began executing maneuvers that took advantage of the dragon's biotechnology in ways no other species had conceived. Ships that could repair themselves in real time performed kamikaze runs that would have been suicide in conventional vessels. Others used their ability to temporarily phase partially out of normal space to appear inside the Void Hunter's defensive perimeters, but the real surprise came when the human ships began to sing. It had been Dr. Morris who first suggested it, after studying the harmonic frequencies that Stellarian used to communicate with his ship. Every intelligent species in the galaxy communicated through some form of organized sound or energy pattern, but humans had something unique: music. Not just communication, but art, emotion, and meaning combined into patterns that could evoke responses far beyond their basic information content. The Dragon-class ships began broadcasting a complex musical composition across multiple energy spectrums simultaneously. To human ears, it sounded like a combination of classical symphony and electronic dance music. But to the Void Hunter scouts, it was something they had never encountered before: organized beauty embedded in tactical communication. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Void Hunter ships began to hesitate, their movement patterns becoming erratic. Through his enhanced senses, Marcus could feel their confusion as they tried to process information that didn't fit any category in their vast databases. They're off balance, reported Lieutenant Chandra. Energy signatures are fluctuating. I think the music is interfering with their collective consciousness somehow. Press the advantage, Marcus ordered. Pattern Gamma. Surround and analyze. The swarm reformed into a three-dimensional net around the Void Hunter scouts, each small craft maintaining careful distance, while sensors recorded everything possible about the enemy vessels. The scouts tried to phase out of normal space entirely, but they discovered that the human ships could follow them. The Dragon biotechnology allowing partial existence in multiple dimensional states simultaneously for the first time in their billions of years of existence. The Void Hunter scouts found themselves trapped. "This is working better than we hoped," came Stellarian's voice in Marcus's mind, filled with amazement. "Your species' approach is completely outside their experience. They are actually afraid." But the engagement was far from over. As the scouts realized they were trapped, their behavior changed dramatically. Instead of trying to escape, they began to merge together, their individual consciousness combining into something larger and more dangerous. "Energy spike across all spectrums," Lieutenant Chen reported urgently. "They're forming some kind of collective entity. Power levels are increasing exponentially." Marcus felt the ship's alarm as sensors detected what was happening. The three scouts were combining into a single massive entity, their individual weaknesses being overcome through unity. But as the transformation progressed, something unexpected happened. The music that the human ships had been broadcasting began to change, becoming more complex, more layered. The Dragon-class vessel's biocrystal matrices were learning, adapting the harmonic patterns in real time to match the evolving threat. What had started as a human composition was becoming something new, a collaboration between human creativity and dragon technology that neither could have achieved alone. The merged Void Hunter entity paused in its transformation, its energy patterns wavering. Through the enhanced connection, Marcus could sense its confusion growing into something that might have been panic. The music wasn't just interfering with its systems anymore. It was actively rewriting the harmonic frequencies that held its collective consciousness together. "Impossible," came a voice that spoke directly into every enhanced human's mind. The first time any human had heard a Void Hunter communicate. "Your pattern does not exist in the Great Catalog. How do you sing songs that unmake the unmaking?" Marcus felt a moment of profound understanding. The Void Hunters weren't just destroyers. They were beings who had consumed so many civilizations that they had become a living catalog of every form of intelligence that had ever existed. They defeated other species by using those species' own patterns against them, but humanity was too young, too new, for the Void Hunters to have encountered their patterns before. We're not in their database, Marcus realized aloud. That's why the music works. It's something they've never heard before, never consumed, never categorized. The merged Void Hunter entity was beginning to destabilize, its component parts losing coherence as the human song continued to evolve and adapt. But even in defeat, it served its purpose as a scout, gathering information about this new threat to transmit back to the main fleet. It's trying to send a data burst, reported Captain Rodriguez from the Defiance. Should we stop it? Marcus considered for a moment, then smiled.
No, let it send its report.
Let them know that humanity is here, and that we're not like anything they've faced before. As the Void Hunter scouts finally destabilized completely, dissolving back into the cosmic background radiation from which they had emerged, Marcus felt a grim satisfaction. They had won this engagement, but it was only the beginning. The main Void Hunter fleet would be coming now, armed with the knowledge of what humanity was capable of. But humanity would be ready. They had something the Void Hunters had never faced before, the ability to become something new in the face of an ancient threat, to create beauty in the midst of destruction, and to fight not just with weapons, but with the very essence of what made them human. The real war was about to begin. The main Void Hunter fleet arrived 3 months later, and it was larger than anyone had dared to imagine. Marcus stood in the command center of the combined Galactic Defense Fleet, watching sensor readings that showed thousands of entity ships emerging from the space between galaxies. Each vessel was the size of a small moon, crackling with the absorbed energy of countless consumed civilizations. Final count is in, reported Admiral Zhang, her own consciousness now enhanced to handle the tactical complexity of coordinating multiple species fleets. 4,300 entity ships plus uncounted smaller craft. They're moving in a formation that spans half a light year. Around the command center, representatives from dozens of species worked alongside enhanced humans, all of them linked through the quantum communication network that Stellarian had helped establish. The Vegan Collective had contributed their mastery of gravitational manipulation, the Andromedans their expertise in energy shielding, and the crystalline Zephyrians their ability to process information at near light speed. But at the center of it all was the human approach, the chaotic, creative, adaptive strategy that had evolved over the past months of preparation. Instead of meeting the Void Hunters with traditional fleet formations, the Galactic Alliance had adopted human tactical philosophy. Be unpredictable, be adaptive, and above all, be willing to sacrifice everything for a chance at victory. Stellarian, what's your assessment? Marcus asked, feeling the Star Dragon's presence across their mental link. They are confident, came the reply, tinged with ancient sadness. They believe they understand what they face. 10,000 years ago, I would have agreed with them. But your species has taught me that understanding can be a limitation as much as a strength. Through the enhanced sensor network, Marcus could see the Void Hunter fleet spreading out into their traditional consumption pattern, a vast sphere that would gradually contract around the galaxy's inhabited systems, draining life from each world before moving on to the next. It was a strategy that had worked for billions of years, refined through the destruction of countless civilizations, but this time was different. All fleets, begin the dance, Marcus commanded, using the term that had become standard for their new form of three-dimensional combat. The response was immediate and spectacular. Instead of forming defensive lines or preparing static fortifications, the entire Galactic Alliance fleet began to move in patterns that resembled music more than military tactics. Human Dragon-class vessels led formations of ships from a dozen species, each group following harmonic patterns that created interference with the void. Hunter's collective consciousness and effect was amplified 100-fold by the new ships that had emerged from the Alliance's combined technological efforts, vessels that were part Andromedan energy craft, part vegan gravity manipulator, part human adaptability, and part dragon biotechnology. Each ship was unique, each formation unpredictable, each tactical decision guided by principles that no single species could have developed alone. They're trying to map our patterns, reported Dr. Park from his position aboard the hybrid command vessel Harmony. His consciousness had been enhanced beyond even normal human levels, allowing him to process the four-dimensional tactical situation in real time. But every time they think they've identified a pattern, it changes. That was the key insight that had emerged from months of preparation. The Void Hunters defeated enemies by analyzing their tactical patterns and turning those patterns against them. But what if the patterns never stayed the same? What if adaptability itself became a weapon? The first engagement came when a group of Void Hunter scouts attempted to probe the Alliance fleet's outer perimeter. They expected resistance, expected to encounter defensive formations that they could analyze and overcome. Instead, they found something impossible, a fleet formation that sang. The combined voices of hundreds of ships from dozens of species, all harmonizing through quantum frequencies that carried both tactical information and pure artistic expression. The music wasn't just communication or interference. It was weaponized beauty. Patterns of organized sound and energy that the Void Hunter's ancient mind simply couldn't process. Direct hit on the lead entity ship, reported Captain Rodriguez, her voice tight with excitement. Hull breach confirmed. They're actually vulnerable to this. But the Void Hunters were learning too. As the initial shock wore off, they began to adapt, developing harmonic countermeasures and frequency dampers. The Alliance fleet's song began to lose its effectiveness as the enemy learned to filter out the disruptive patterns. Time for Phase 2, Marcus announced, feeling the grim satisfaction of a plan unfolding exactly as designed. Across the battlefield, the Alliance fleet began to fragment. Ships that had been working in perfect harmony suddenly scattered in all directions, their formation dissolving into apparent chaos. To the Void Hunters, it looked like the enemy force was collapsing under pressure, exactly what they had expected to happen once their countermeasures took effect. But the chaos was itself a pattern, one more complex than anything the Void Hunters had encountered before. Each ship that broke away from the main formation carried with it a fragment of the overall strategy, ready to adapt and evolve based on local conditions. Instead of one large fleet following a single plan, there were now thousands of small groups, each one capable of independent action while maintaining connection to the whole. The vegan contribution to this strategy was gravitational, camouflage, technology that allowed ships to hide in the folds of spacetime itself. The Andromedan shields could absorb and redirect energy attacks. The Zephyrian computational matrices could process tactical information faster than the Void Hunters' collective. Consciousness could adapt, but the human element was what made it all work together. The willingness to improvise, to take risks, to try approaches that had never been tested before. Enemy fleet is advancing, reported Admiral Zhang. They're moving to surround the galactic core systems. Estimated time to first inhabited world, 18 hours. Then it's time to show them what we've really been preparing for, Marcus said, feeling Stellarian's approval through their mental link. The Star Dragon had been quiet during most of the battle, conserving his strength for this moment. Now, as the Void Hunter fleet began its final approach, Stellarian emerged from hiding behind Earth's moon, his crystalline ship blazing with the light of contained stars. But he wasn't alone. Over the past months, he had been reaching out through dimensions that humanity was only beginning to understand, calling to others of his kind who had survived in hiding throughout the galaxy. Now they answered that call. 7 more star dragons emerged from their hiding places among nebulae and dark matter clouds, their ships burning with different colors of stellar fire. The last of an ancient species, coming together for one final battle against the force that had destroyed their civilization. 8 dragons, whispered Dr. Morris from her position in the command center. After 10,000 years of believing they were extinct, there are actually 8 of them left. But even 8 dragons wouldn't be enough to face 4,000 Void Hunter entity ships directly. The real strategy was more subtle, more human in its approach. All ships, initiate the Symphony Protocol, Marcus commanded. What happened next had never been attempted before in the history of galactic warfare. Every ship in the Alliance fleet, every Star Dragon, every enhanced human consciousness began to sing together across quantum frequencies that spanned multiple dimensions simultaneously. It wasn't just music anymore, it was reality alteration on a scale that approached the fundamental forces that shaped the universe. The song they sang was the story of life itself, the emergence of consciousness from chaos, the growth of civilizations from primitive beginnings, the connections that bound different species together in common cause. It was a pattern that celebrated existence rather than entropy, creation rather than consumption. And for the first time in their billion-year existence, the Void Hunters heard something that made them afraid. The combined song of the Galactic Alliance reached into the space between dimensions where the Void Hunters drew their power and began to rewrite the fundamental equations that governed their existence. Instead of creatures of pure entropy, they were being transformed into something that could create as well as destroy. The effect spread through their fleet like a cascade. Entity ship after entity ship, beginning to glow with inner light as the harmony rewrote their basic nature. Some fought against the transformation and dissolved back into cosmic background radiation. Others embraced it and began to sing along, their voices adding new harmonies to the galactic symphony. Impossible, came the voice of the Void Hunter collective consciousness, but now it carried wonder rather than anger. You have given us songs we did not know existed. You have shown us patterns of existence we thought were myth. Marcus felt tears streaming down his face as he watched the transformation spreading through the enemy fleet. The great war that had threatened to consume the galaxy was ending not in destruction, but in a kind of cosmic rebirth.